My name is Jason Lewis. I'm a professor of Computation Arts at Concordia University. I teach in the Department of Design and Computation Arts. So what I'm going to talk to you about is the program, Computation Arts, basically just describe what it is and hopefully get you interested in it and answer some questions about it, okay? So I'm going to start off actually with a video that sort of gives an overview of the program.
Computation arts is basically, I might think of a more rigorous way of thinking about new media, which is anything that uses a computer in the practice of art or design.
In the last 6 years, the program has really developed, and it now encompasses things like interactive environments, electronics, interactive garments, which is my specialty, interactive surfaces and rooms. And the interactivity not only needs to be visual, but also involves audio and sound, also involves physical materials.
So the core course I teach is called Languages of Programming, and in that class is about giving all of our students a common foundation in computation. So the idea is not just to learn programming, but to learn programming in a way that will help you become more expressive in the digital environment.
What we're looking at downstairs is, in the black box, is work by my lab. It's the Topological Media Lab. It's a group of students I've drawn together with some colleagues like Michael Montanaro, who's there as well from the dance department. And we're building these experiments in installations and performance events.
Hexagram is a joint initiative between Concordia University and UCAM. It's a multimedia research institute devoted to research creation. There are 8 separate axes of research running the gamut from advanced digital media through robotics and performance interactivity and alternative kinds of textiles.
I work with anywhere between 5 to 10 undergraduate and graduate research assistants at any one time who work on my research grants. So it's sort of like partly learning, partly production.
Being a research assistant while I was studying was really beneficial for my studies because it helped me to apply my computer science knowledge into a software development process.
Moi, en tant qu'étudiant, j'ai été poussé énormément par la plupart des professeurs. Les professeurs, c'est sûr qu'ils ne veulent pas qu'on reste dans un cadre académique tout le temps. Donc, j'ai eu l'occasion d'exposer au Musée national des beaux-arts de Québec. J'ai eu l'occasion d'exposer à la SAC, qui est tout près d'ici, la Société des arts technologiques.
Montreal is really involved into electronic arts and technological art. We see it with different festivals, museum, galleries, and there's really a community of artists working in that field that is building. So as a student, seeing that in the city where I'm studying, it's really motivating because I know I can make contact and I know all the potential that there can be for me after school.
So our students have a whole variety of different career options when they graduate from our department. Some of them join design consultancies, either print or web, or start their own design companies. Some of them enter the art world, and actually some of our students have received their very first media arts grants from the Canada Arts Council upon graduation. Some of our students are really interested in gaming, so they enter the game industry through companies such as Ubisoft, which has a very large research lab in Montreal. And finally, one very important direction that our students take, given how much research goes on in our department, is to go on to graduate school. So not just MFAs in art and design, but also computer science, graduate school, and also places such as the MIT Media Lab, which really merges design and technology in this rich interdisciplinary practice.
Okay, so that kind of gives you the big picture. Now I'm just going to kind of walk through it a little bit more slowly. And please ask questions if things aren't clear, whatever it might be, okay? So this is our description of ourselves. Computation Art Program challenges students to reimagine objects, narratives, and environments. So we think in terms of sort of actual physical objects that we work with, and they have some sort of digital technology in them so they can interact or react to people. Narratives, so we think a lot about sort of screen-based work where you're trying to tell a story or you're trying to get across some sort of message. And environments where you actually take an entire room and you instrument it. You put technology into it so it can track people, it can listen to people, do speech recognition, and then have video projections or screens or something respond to what's going on in the space. So the core curriculum integrates dynamic imagery, sound, and virtual dimensions. And the teaching emphasizes non-traditional applications of digital technology. So this term's kind of changing a bit over time, right? What is traditional is changing. So when we started the program, say 8 years ago, it was still a big thing to get a website up and sort of make an interesting website. And at that point, that was non-traditional in terms of the design universe. We still do that, but we also do this much more expansive thing, sets of things like you saw in the video with the interactive environments and the smart textiles, making fashion that reacts to your breath or reacts to your movement and do things like that. We also like to develop an awareness of the cultural and political implications of new technologies in network information society. So a big part of what our particular faculty is interested in is how to train students to be critical designers and critical artists. So engaging with what's going on in the culture around them, asking questions, commenting on what's happening politically, socially, culturally, however it might be, and sort of questioning the technology a lot. Because the technology is increasingly pervasive in our society and sort of kind of increasingly determines what we do and how we do it. And so we're interested in asking questions about how that technology is being built instead of just sort of accepting the fact that it's been given to us. And it provides students with a rich foundation in creative work at the intersection of design, art, and technology. And we're interested in stuff that's aesthetically engaging, so we're interested in making beautiful work, or compelling work at least, conceptually provocative, so making work that gets people to ask questions, and technically sophisticated. So part of what differentiates ourselves from our sister program, which I'll talk about a little bit, is design, but lots of other new media programs out there, is that we spend a lot of time with students teaching them how to work at a lower level of the machine. So we teach them how to program, and we teach them how to do electronics, right? And these are students who come from creative art programs or fine art programs or design programs. So they're students who come in not necessarily with any technical background, but what we do is we've designed the program so that within a couple years, as part of their general study, we can get them to the point where they can do some programming and they can do some electronics. You don't have to do all that through the course of your study, but we give you a foundation so that it opens up that world to you if you're interested in doing it. If you're not, probably about half of our students never do an electronic circuit board or never program after the initial foundation, but they understand much more deeply what that's about. And it makes it possible for them to think much more sort of expansively about what they can do with design. So we are, as I just mentioned, we're actually in a department called the Department of Design and Computation Arts. So the design program is a very, very strong program, but more like a traditional design program. So graphic design, printmaking, typography, object design, so furniture design, things like that, with a really, really great faculty. The nice thing about us being in the same department is that students who are in computation arts can take design classes, and students in design can take computation arts classes. So if you're in computation arts, and for instance, you're really interested in typography, I teach a digital typography class, but there's also 2 in the design program that students can take. So a lot of times, students who are really interested in typography particularly, they'll take the foundation class in design, and they'll take my class in digital typography, and then they'll take the advanced course typography and design, and so they can make a nice foundation for themselves in typography on both sides of the department. I'll read this. This is from our chair, Rona Richmond-Keneally. The amazing thing about our program is that most of our students are willing to embrace it with open arms. This program creates circumstances to learn about the culture in which artifacts we create are inserted into the world and how they activate the culture of their time. So this is what I was talking about earlier, is that we want students to think actively about the products that they're making, about the designs that they're making, and how they impact the people who will be using them. Designers have one of the most important jobs in the world because it's impossible to exist without being subject to the creations of designers, right? So almost everything we use, everything in this room, certainly all the technology we use, designers are an integral part of figuring out what that's going to be like when people use it. So the technology gets developed by engineers and computer scientists, most of whom, I'm one of those, right? Most of whom don't spend a lot of time thinking too much about the user necessarily. They're just interested in making an interesting technology. And so where the designer comes in is sort of taking those interesting technologies and ideas and putting them into a format that people can use. We sit in chairs at tables, wear clothing. All these things have specific design implications. So what's amazing is that our students learn to become finely attuned to the dynamics of the wider world, the constructed environment. So the really sort of thinking about the fact that somebodies sat down and decided how everything in this room should look. Okay, it just didn't happen, didn't just sort of fall off the truck or come out the end of the assembly line. Somebody made a set of decisions about why this chair, this table needs to be this funny, what is this, a rhombozoid? What is this? Shape. You know, that those chairs need to be like that, you know, the chalkboard, like, so all that stuff is the product of designers making decisions. So designers actually have a very sort of powerful role to play in our society, particularly a consumer-oriented society where there's lots of things for us to buy and use if we're interested. We have to become more sensitized to implications of living in that environment and to the way our contributions work in that environment. So part of what's been developing in the department as well over the last couple of years is an increasing emphasis on sustainability and thinking about how designers can partake in that conversation about how to make things in a sustainable manner. So how do you source materials that are from a sustainable source? So they're not from old growth trees or from farm trees or whatever it might be. How to put together objects such that they can be easily taken apart and recycled and not just thrown away. How you can design stuff for sort of technology that has lower power consumption. So this is a conversation that's sort of going on in the sort of in the foundation of both programs as well, sort of constantly trying to think about how we can bring that into our practice. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So the structure of the program is a little bit complicated. So the main part of the program is called the Specialization. There's also a very strange naming problem here, but I won't get into that. But this is the core part of the program, the Specialization. So it's 60 credits in Computation Arts. So in our program, like I said, you can also, some of those credits you can take in design as well. So it's not just in Computation Arts, but sort of Computation Arts with some design. And we bring in about 30 students a year. So it's a small program by Concordia standards. Not the smallest, but definitely one of the smaller programs. So we like it that way because it means we get to know all the students in the program and we're able to sort of follow them through the 3 years that they're in the program and sort of work individually with students and also adjust the curriculum to sort of to deal with the changing sort of interests and skill sets that students come in with. So like I said, 8 years ago, you know, we'd get 30 students in and maybe 2 of them will have created a website, right? Now, most of the students when we get in, they at least would have created a blog, if not a website, or done something like that. So they would have actively engaged with creating stuff on the web. So we have to sort of change our curriculum to reflect that. We also have what's called the major, which are all of you in the creative, what's it called?
Creative Arts, Languages, and Literature.
Are you all in the creative arts, languages, and literature? What are you in? What?
I'm in Pure Applied Science.
Excellent, okay. You too? Yeah, okay. So, okay. You?
Commerce.
You're in commerce? Okay. So we have essentially what's a double major with computer science. Okay, so where you do 45 credits in computation arts, and then you do 45 credits in computer science. Okay, and you can graduate either with a BSc or with a BFA. Okay, almost everybody graduates with a BSc. Okay, but you can choose if you want to. So this is a really great program. It's hard to find students for this program. That's why we only bring in 10 a year, because it requires students who have, in order to get into the computer science side, you need to have math 102, 103, 10. Anyways, I show it later. Sorry, I'm American. This whole CGEP system is still kind of new to me. So anyways, I'll have the details in a minute. But anyways, but if you're taking pure and applied sciences, this shouldn't be a problem if you were interested in taking this track, right? And so what this does is this is a really dynamite combination of instruction in creative work, sort of how to make creative work, and a solid grounding in sort of programming and algorithm stuff so you can write your own software. Okay, so I'll talk about this a bit more when we talk about the faculty. So all the faculty that are in computation arts are hybrids like I am. So I did computer science and philosophy as an undergraduate, and then I went to art school for graduate school. And I'll tell you more about the other faculty there. So we're all people who really are interested in students who are trying to combine those two things as much as they can. So if you think you might be interested in this, talk to me afterwards, okay? Because like I said, it's hard to find students who are willing to go this track, but they're also sort of kind of the happiest students we have. Because usually they're people that have some sort of technical background, but they don't want to just go and write video drivers, right? Or go and make a database for a bank or something like that. They want to do something creative with their technical skills, and this is a really fantastic way to do it, right? And also very valuable. Like it's very hard. This is a combination that out in the business world is extremely valuable. Somebody who can talk technically but work creatively, hard to find. So like I said, 10 students a year for there, and then we also have a minor. So if you decide to go Concordia but you decide to take a different, go to a different department for your main degree, you can still come in and do a minor, which is 24 credits in computation arts. So the big advantage of this is if you're a minor student, that means you have priority to get into classes just like our students. So if you're not a minor and you're interested in taking one of our classes, it can be very difficult to get into. But if you are a minor and you're moving through this program, then you can take our classes. So this is a great adjunct. So we have people in commerce, we have people in the humanities, so like English or French translation, and we have some people from the sciences. We have a couple biology students actually who they're doing this minor because on top of what their main thing is, they want to become more fluent in digital media as a way to talk about their work and a way to present their work. Okay, so these are sort of the three different ways. Any questions about the differences here? Yes.
I'm still confused about, you said how you need people in computation arts in the business world now, but why is it so small? Like, why is it 10 students here? Why would you
because there's students that have to be able to get into the computer science side as well, right? So the problem, part of the issue is, and again, this is me as an American speaking, is sort of a little bit about the way CGEPs are set up, in the sense that, so we're actually easier for us to get students a bit out of the province, in the sense that, because CGEPs, you're taking particular programs, right? So as in the program, from what I understand, like the program that you guys are doing, you don't have time to sort of like take creative art classes, right? So it's very difficult for you to build up a portfolio, right? So, and then for students who are in the creative arts sort of programs, that I was just talking with somebody at another CGEP, I won't name it, the other day, and basically they're like, if you're in the creative track, they're not allowed to give you really technical courses, right? Because that belongs in a different part of the CGEP. So that's why we can't find many students that either have a technical background but have built up their portfolio, because they haven't been allowed to take classes to do that, or they have a creative background, but they have a creative portfolio, but they don't have a technical foundation because they haven't been allowed to take technical classes, right? So that's why it's not that we limit this. If we could find more of these students, we would take them in a second, okay? It's just that it's hard to find them. So yeah, and I'll come back to you.
For the portfolio that you're talking about, though, what would that be comprised of?
The portfolio, so the portfolio is, you know, that's a really good question. I just realized I don't have a slide on that. So the portfolio, basically, in general, we're interested in anything that shows us your creative potential. Okay, so we have portfolios where people submit photography, they submit sketches and drawings and illustrations, they submit digital videos that they've made themselves or with their friends, music that they've made, creative writing, if you write stories or poetry or anything like that. So we're very broad-based in our sort of what kind of creative work we're interested in. But the key thing is that we see that you have some kind of creative spark.
So when applying to this, you would have to have a portfolio?
You would have, yeah, you have to have a portfolio. But with the majors, we're less, we don't have as high expectations for the portfolio as we do for the people just coming for the specialization, for exactly the reason I just told you, right? Is that it's very rare to find students who are going into university who have a super strong creative portfolio and a strong technical foundation, right? And for us, part of the reason why we're willing to do that is that we see our job as making those students, right? So our job is like, okay, so there's not many of those people coming out of high school or CJEP, and we think there should be more of those types of people who are fluent in both sides. And so we're willing to bring in technical students who have a good technical foundation and can show us somehow that, you know, that they are thinking creatively, that we'll work with them, right? And the foundation year, the first year of the, you know, the first year of the program is, you know, dealing with fundamentals. So design fundamentals, web fundamentals, things like that. So somebody who doesn't have a strong portfolio coming in, they can, and they're coming in from the major side, they can build that portfolio up. Okay, what's the question?
If you have like a sufficient amount of people to go to this program, is it like a first come, first served thing?
No. So the application process is, I think it's due March 1st. Don't quote me on that. Go look at the website. It's March 1st? Okay. You'll put in your regular application that all Concordia undergraduates or potential undergraduates put in, but then you also have to make a portfolio. And then you'll send the portfolio to us, so you'll come and hand it to my departmental administrator, and we'll look at the transcript and all those things, but we'll also take a look at the portfolio. The faculty all gets together in a room like this, and basically we just pass the portfolios around and we sort of make judgments about them. Now, very important date, which, let me just make sure I have the right date before I give it to you guys, since we're talking about this. Yeah, 23rd October is portfolio day. It's actually open house at Concordia in general. So it's a great day to go to Concordia and look around, because all the departments have displays, have faculty members there and students there to talk to you about the different programs. But in particular for us, it's also portfolio day. So that means that if you think you might, just if you might be interested in the program, then you can come and you can sit down with one of the faculty members and say, here's what I have. Okay, what do you suggest I do between now and March 1st to strengthen that portfolio so I'm a better candidate to get into the program? That is by far the best way to get a handle on what you should have on March 1st and what you should give on March 1st. And if they're, again, like I said, if they're technical students who don't have a big portfolio, that's a great day to come in and say, you know, I'm coming from a technical background, I'm going to be interested in the major, but I don't have a really big portfolio. Here's what I have. You know, can you talk to me about what I can do between now and March to make a convincing case? And so that's an excellent way to do that. Okay. Other questions at this point? Yes?
For a technical part, what do you need?
What do you need?
Yeah, like you need specific classes in order to get...
Yeah, you need, it's Math 101, Math 102, or Calculus 101, 102? Is that what it is? Oh, that's right, that new thing. It's basically the first 2 calculus courses, right? Yeah, and actually, if we can make a case to computer science that if you only have one of those, that we can still bring you in, or if you can show evidence of some other proof that you know how to program, or you have appropriate math skills, right? So, but that's those 2 courses. That's the simple way to come in. If you have those 2, they're like fine, you can come into the computer science side. Okay.
I'm just curious, what's your ratio gender-wise right now?
It's funny. About 2 weeks ago, I started asking that question, and it's hard to get to. But yeah, I think computation arts is now pretty much balanced, and it'll shift back and forth, but not by much. It'll go from 50-50 to like 40-60, male-female or female-male. The major is probably has been traditionally about 70% male. So, but for instance, Lucy Bélanger, who was in that video, she was a major, and she was actually one of my research assistants. Amazing, amazing. She actually just finished a master's degree at McGill in computer science right now. So it's a bit unbalanced on that side, but across the department, it's balanced. Design tends to be more women. I'm not sure the exact percentages. So, other questions at this point? Okay, what am I gonna do now? So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about some of the courses we offer. So Digital Media Studio focuses on the production of dynamic and interactive audio-visual media. Students develop proficiency in generating original audio and visual materials, as well as exposure to current digital media software. Okay, so in general, Computation Arts is a studio-based program. So the focus is on particularly in the first and second year, sort of laying a foundation in a particular area for students, but then with students making projects, all right, either individually or in groups. So it's very much like every class except for one theory class we have, it's all about making stuff. Creative computation, this is the course that I teach, which is the introduction to programming. So we use processing, and we use processing, which is a program to do that's specifically designed for creative folks who don't have any programming experience, how to teach them to programming, because it's a very it's very easy to make interesting things visually and interactively. So this is actually I consider a fairly successful program. I have 40 students a year, and like I said, most of them start with no programming, and by the end of it, they actually know quite a bit, and they feel comfortable with it. Digital text and typography, didn't think about the fact I had 2 of my own on there. So my specialty is typography, and thinking about how reading changes when we're doing it on a screen, or we're doing it on an iPad or on a phone, and creating new software to help with that. 3D digital production, so this is 3D modeling, animation, lighting, texturing, sort of everything you need to know about how to make interesting 3-dimensional environments. A lot of the students who are interested in gaming, so we have lots of students who are interested in gaming. So this is one of the core courses they take. We actually have 3 courses in 3D modeling and animation. And so students sort of build a foundation by taking all 3 of those courses. Digital sound design, our Chris Salter, one of the faculty members we have, is an amazing digital audio artist, and he teaches a 2-semester sequence in sort of all things digital sound and audio. His big focus is on sort of interactive environment. So how do you create sound to accompany these sort of rich environments where there's sensors and things reacting to what you're doing and what you're saying and things like that. Real-time video. So explores the concept of tangible media and physical computation, as well as related concepts. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong title to the wrong description. So this is actually tangible media and physical computing. Ignore that right there. So related concepts of ubiquitous computing, wearable computing, and interaction design. So there's the scene in the video of a couple scenes, like the one with the dress with the flowers that opened up, and the other dress where when she blew on it, it sort of lit the stuff up and lit it back. So those are research projects by Joanna Berzowska, who's certainly one of the best known people in North America who's looking at how do you integrate technology into what people wear. So both in the fashion sense, so how do you make interesting designs incorporating electronics, like the flower dress and the dress that you blow on, but then also in more practical stuff. So one of the big things she's looking at right now with a researcher from UDM is how do you power that stuff, right? So if you have electronics in your clothing, how do you keep it powered? So how do you create power from people's motion, things like that. So those are all first and second year courses. And then basically in the third year, there's a couple more sort of electives, but they're on the website. The great thing about the last year is that you have a whole year to work on a project. Okay, so there's two different courses, the Project Studio 1 in the fall, Project Studio 2 in the winter. And essentially you work with the professor to develop an idea, conceptualize it, sketch it out, prototype it, and then realize it. So it's a really nice way to sort of stretch your legs, sort of take everything that you've learned so far and put it into one project and also hopefully make a killer piece for your portfolio. So facilities, we have very good facilities. We have, for the type of the programming we have probably the top 5 facilities in North America for the sort of stuff that we do. Okay, so we have a sensor lab. So it's a resource for students in all years of the program, and there's a dedicated technician. And so working in both realms of hard and soft object design, the lab provides support in the development of projects using embedded computational material, innovative hardware devices, programming, and basic electronics. So this is where you learn how to design and make your own circuit boards. This is where you figure out how to stitch circuits into fabric so you can make fabric that responds to people's touch. This is where you learn to take objects and put actuators in them so they can move around on the floor on their own. So there's courses that deal with that, but then there's this resource that's there for you all the time so that when you have projects, classwork, you can go in and say, hey, this is what I need to do. Can I get some help on it? There's a very great technician, Ilya Bidino, who's a graduate of our program, who can help you out. It's also beautiful. You can't really see it, but this is a view down east going down St. Catherine Street. So it's a really nice place to have to work. Computation Lab is similar to the Sensor Lab, except it's just all screens. So I don't have a picture there. You've seen screens before. But it's all about programming, providing assistance for programming. So for instance, for students who take my Introduction to Programming course, this is where they go when they have problems or they have issues. And there's a full-time technician in this lab as well. So there's tons of help. One of the things we clearly recognize is since we're bringing in lots of students who don't have a technical background, but we're giving them a technical foundation, is that we need to surround them with lots and lots of resources to help make that happen. So we have these 2 technicians there to help you with your schoolwork. And they're great. They're really very, very helpful. Both of them are actually ex-students from our program, so they understand the program really well as well. Center for Digital Arts. So this is a resource for the Faculty of Fine Arts in general. So it provides computing support for the development of projects. So there's 3 or 4 computer labs, a couple PC labs, a couple Macintosh labs. There's printing facilities. You can borrow camera equipment, sound recording equipment, laptops, webcams, all sorts of things. You can check them out for a day or for a week to help you complete projects. And the core technical centers, so because we're in the Faculty of Fine Arts, we're with a design program. One of the great things is there's 3 fully equipped shops, a metal shop, a wood shop, and a maquette and rapid prototyping lab. So if you're somebody who wants to make a piece of furniture, or you want to create a model, a 3D model, and then turn it into an actual physical thing, right? We have the shops that can do that, can work with you on that, and we have really great technicians in those shops as well that can work with you to help realize those sorts of things. And then we also host what's called the Hexagram Institute for Research, Creation, and Media Arts and Technology. So this is, I would argue, the best place in Canada to do media arts and technology work. I have colleagues come all the time and they can't believe the facilities that we have. That's the top 2 floors of the building. And basically there's advanced printing labs, 2 or 3 different textile labs that have these crazy computer looms and textile maker. I don't really understand it, but they're really cool. And we have a robotics lab. We have a rapid prototyping lab, so you can quickly take things from, you know, some image on the screen and make an object, just like I was saying with the labs in fine arts. There's also what's called a black box, which is a huge performance space, where we do performances and installations and things like that. This is primarily faculty and for graduate students, but one of the interesting things about our program is that at the moment, anyways, and we won't for a little bit, we don't actually have a graduate program. And so we put an unusual amount of energy into our undergraduates in terms of our research. So you hear Joey say she has up to 10 research assistants, you know, at any given time. That's the same for me. I have about 10 research assistants at any given time. And it's an unusual split in that anywhere between half or maybe 60% of those students are undergraduates. You don't find that in other places because faculty tends to be very focused with their research on their graduate students. We are still focused on our graduate students, but we're incredibly focused on bringing undergraduates into our labs. And it's something that when I came, I wasn't sort of expecting, but it's turned out to be a really great, I think, both for the program and for us as researchers to bring students in at that level and have them participate in what's going on in the lab. So, what do you do with a computation arts degree? So, lots of trajectories out of this. So, graphic design, web design development, interaction design development, interactive environment design development, game design. These are all places that our students go all the time. Fine arts, so you go out and you start applying for your first Calc grant or your Canada Council for the Arts grant to fund your art practice. Software development, so we do have students, majors, who go out and they go to work for Ubisoft writing software for them, or for Matrix writing video drivers. So it's one of the things that's very unique about the program is that we actually push students out into such a wide range of possible occupations. It can make it challenging sometimes, I'll be honest too, right? Sometimes students are like, I'm not sure if I'm a developer or an artist, but part of what we try to bring to students is the idea that you don't necessarily have to make those hard choices. It's not hard in the sense of difficult, but like make these bright line distinctions between those things. You can find ways, you can find careers to combine those things together. And also, we have a reasonable number of students who go on to graduate study. So they go on to get masters in designs, they go into game development graduate programs, they get masters in computer science, get masters and PhDs in humanities, they go to fine arts, and they get their MFA. So again, a very wide spread of possible outcomes from going into the program. And we consider that a huge strength, right? So that so we sort of equip you well enough that depending on sort of where you want to focus and what sort of electives you take while you're there, you can move in any one of these directions. Okay. Questions? So I've talked a little bit about the faculty. So like I said, Joey Berzowska works primarily with soft computation, electronic textiles, responsive clothing as wearable technology, reactive materials, and squishy interfaces. She is actually a graduate. She did design at Concordia and mathematics at McGill, and then did her graduate work at MIT, at the MIT Media Lab. There's me. Like I said, I did computer science and philosophy at Stanford, and then I went to the Royal College of Art to do my graduate work in art. And I'm primarily focused on digital text and typography, but also the last 5 or 6 years have started to get into game design and virtual environment creation. Chris Salter is the person who does sound, PhD in the areas of theater and computer-generated sound at Stanford. His artistic practice investigates the role of real-time sound, image, and technologies of interaction within the context of responsive environments and performance. And then Xiaoxin Wei, trained at mathematics at Harvard and Stanford, a lot of Stanford in there. He's the Canada Research Chair in new media. And he's interested in critical studies of media, science, and technology. and cut that off. His current experimental work explores gesture, agency, materiality, sort of performance, really looking deeply at what performance is and how technology can augment and expand performance. And there's also another faculty member who is not on here, Christopher Moore, who has a background in design and interaction design, graphic design, and web design, and also has an interest in typography like me. So if I may say so, I think it's a very impressive faculty, and we're all heavily involved in the undergraduate curriculum. We all teach at least 3 or 4 classes a year in the undergraduate curriculum, and it's our baby. Like Joey and I came here to start the program, and Chris and Shinwei came in a couple years later to sort of help us expand it. But we care very deeply about it. We care very deeply about the students and how they go through the program. And like I said, that's part of the advantage of it being a small program. Yeah, actually, I think I'll just take questions now. No question? No more questions? Yeah.
What about grades coming in, like our scores?
What about them?
Do you have like the averages from the year before, or like a
Of course.
Or?
I mean, do we have? You mean No, we don't have it. We never looked at the average. I'm sure it could be dug up, but we've never. I mean, you mean across the students, or?
For accepting, is there an
Yeah, no, we don't track that because it's such a mixture of your portfolio and your transcript, and if you have them, letters of recommendation. The letters of recommendation are not necessary, but they certainly can be helpful. So we don't just look at the transcript and say, oh, okay, this is a B student, they're in, right? This is a C student, they're out. We look at the transcript and we look at the portfolio. You know, we want to see strength in both areas, but we consider the whole thing, right? So if somebody's got a really dynamite portfolio, maybe somewhere along the line in CJEP they weren't paying attention too much on the transcript, we'll consider them, and vice versa. So they have a super strong transcript, but their portfolio maybe isn't as strong as we necessarily would like all of them to be. We might consider taking them all, or has a letter of recommendation that's, that says, the student's portfolio isn't really great, but I think they have huge potential, right, in doing this sort of thing. So we look at all of them. So I don't even know what the average GPA has been for our incoming classes. We never talk about it. We look at individual students' transcripts.
So it's more of like an individual?
It's absolutely individual. Yeah, it's absolutely individual. Like we never, we look at individual transcript and we say, oh, this student has, a B or a B plus or a C or A or something like that. That's part of the information that tells us about the whole picture. But we're never looking like, okay, here's the pile of B transcripts and here's the pile of C transcripts. Never. So, it's interesting. Your questions made me realize that we don't do that, actually.
Well, like when McGill was here the other week, they had like a list, and it would be like for each program or whatever, it would have like the average R score, or like the minimum needed.
Yeah, yeah, it's a different approach. The big part of that is because of the portfolio part of it, right? But there's also important parts that, like at communications, they might do that as well, communication studies, but they do individual interviews. Right, so that's a huge part of it, right? So different schools and different departments take a different approach to that. Our approach is that we're looking at the whole picture.
And communications, is that a more general thing, or is that a completely different?
Well, communication studies is a totally separate department that's in a different faculty. So we're in the Faculty of Fine Arts. Communication studies is in Arts and Sciences. And so they have their whole thing going on there, and particularly since I'm on camera, that's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to get in trouble from my colleagues over in communication studies. So, yeah. Well, the specialization is pretty much, I'll go back to that. It's usually done within 3 years. The program is technically set up as a 3-year program. You can do, the way it's structured, if you do full-time for 3 years, then excluding summers, then you will graduate from the program on time. We have students who stay longer because either they've been interrupted or they want to take more classes. We have lots of students actually who are like, well, I didn't get to take all the electives I wanted to take, so I'm going to stay a little bit longer. The majors, probably, I hesitate to give an exact percentage, but a not insignificant number of them end up taking maybe 3.5 years or 4 years, because there's a couple points in the curriculum where between what computer science is asking you to do at this particular point and what we're asking you to do at this particular time is quite heavy. And students do it, but it can be challenging sometimes, particularly if it's a student that has, we have students who have, part-time, full-time jobs. We have students who have families, right? So sometimes it can be a little bit rough getting through those couple sections. But then we have lots of students who are just coming from CJEP and they're not working or they're not working a lot, and they really can just spend, that 3 years focus getting through the curriculum. So, but they're all designed, both of them are designed to be done in 3 years. We're required by law to do that. Other questions? General questions? No? Okay, I'm gonna just put up there's been the contact information at the bottom the whole time. But let me just put this up. So if you have more questions, you're welcome to email me directly, okay? And this is the email to our departmental coordinator. So this is a good email for when are the applications due type of thing, right? If you have sort of content questions like, I think I might be interested in the major, but I'm a little bit worried, then it's good to email me, and I'll be happy to answer those by email. And yes?
Sorry, just a little typo.
Uh-oh.
It's design at Alcor.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah, so it's actually design at Alcor, not Aclor. Yeah, it's a great program. I say that completely unbiased. This is the program I was looking for when I was undergraduate and could never find it. And that's part of the reason why I've sort of shaped it in the direction that we've shaped it. So I think it's well worth taking a look at. So yeah. The faculty member, we all have very high sort of expectations, sort of both of ourselves, but also of our student body. But I think we do a good job of like I said, sort of surrounding students with resources so they can meet those expectations. I think that I think it's created a program that puts out very high quality students who, like I said, are actually attractive to a sort of a very wide range of sort of employers, as well as creating a foundation for students to go off and be their own, work on their own as designers. I mean, we probably have, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15% of every class. They just go out and they sort of hang out their shingle, and they're like, okay, I'm an independent consultant or independent designer, right? And they start doing design work, right? And they go to design consultancies, they go to big companies that have internal design houses. They go and Vincent Leclerc, the guy who was speaking in French, he graduated 4 years ago now, went to MIT, and then he has a company with 30 people now who basically does interactive environment works for museums and galleries and things like that. So there's just a huge range of what people do afterwards. So come on, come join us. Okay, thank you guys.